But the communications minister is expected to address the press tomorrow. We're picking some information. There may be an intervention. But until then, she's very consistent about this July 31 deadline. We're going to be having a conversation this morning as to if this deadline sticks or stands, what will be the implications, especially for government, because already the electronic transactions levy, that's e-levy, has raked in less than 10% of the expected revenue. That has led to the revised expectations of government in terms of the revenue from the e-levy. I'll tell you, and if it's going to be wise at all to deactivate SIM cards after July 31 if government is expecting money from the electronic transactions levy through Momo, right? We'll talk about it this morning. But take a look at one of the centers at the Elwak Sports Stadium where people are rushing to get their Ghana card in these dying moments. Take a look.
As early as 5:30 a.m., people began queuing at various telecommunication network offices to register their SIM cards. After long hours of standing in the hot sun, however, many were frustrated.
I don't know why they're not putting so many things in place. You could see the hectic times here because it's on a rush. Someone like me, I got my card yesterday, so you could see that there's that rush, and I was expecting them that at least the NIA could say that they could extend the time, so that rush thing won't be like what we are seeing now. You could see we are in the sun, very bad.
With only 2 days to the deadline for the SIM card re-registration process, there's a mad rush for SIMs at various centers, with many complaining of delays in getting their Ghana cards. In effect, they're calling for an extension of the deadline.
My Ghana card was delayed. I had to display there. They should really extend it because some of us don't actually have the time to come in and stand here and then be waiting for us to be registered.
Why are you not extending it? That means, one, the telcos are going to lose. I'm also going to lose. Then what's going to happen is people will begin to sue the Ministry of Communication. I don't see why the National Communication can't extend. They should. It's a must. They should.
Well, those are some members of the general public, you the Ghanaian people out there. I'll tell you how many Ghana cards have been issued and how many have been linked to the SIM cards as we speak. We have that information for you, and why the way forward is extremely important, not just for government, but for the individuals as well, and the telcos. My guests will be joining me in studio. They have experience, they have knowledge to talk about this. We'll engage this morning. Also, the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, took that decision, a long-awaited decision, according to many, to sack Sarah Joasafo as Gender, Children and Social Protection Minister. But Parliament deferred its decision on whether or not that Dom Kwabenya seat should be declared vacant. Why is that the case? And what are the constituents of the Dom Kwabenya constituency saying about this? Stay with me. We'll talk about it as well. We'll go for this quick break. We'll be back shortly. My name is Alfred the Concept. This is Key Point.
I'm healthy. My secret is exercise, balanced diet, and a good rest. One thing that was worrying me lately was piles, hemorrhoids. Then a good friend of mine introduced Pilin capsules and ointment to me. Pilin has sorted me out very quickly. I recommend Pilin to you. Take the capsules and apply the ointment topically. Pilin, all your pile issues will be sorted. Available in pharmacy, licensed chemical shops, and herbal shops nationwide. This advert is FDA approved.
Wherever you're watching us from, this is us on the Kids Arena once again to be creating a motorized coloring board. When you came to Talented Kids, we all knew you as a hairstylist. So where from now being a makeup artist?
One day I woke up and I told my mom to get me makeup kit. She came back from work and she astonished me with a makeup kit. And I take my dummy, do makeup, I take my child, do makeup, and I had to get perfect because practice make my perfect.
You said when you were 6, you discovered your talent for singing.
Yes. That strong girl, funny blow loud like a trumpet. I love me, I love them like a picture.
Kids Arena shows Saturdays at 10 a.m. on TV3. Don't miss it.
Hi there. Hi, my name is Calibos, the only boss with oneness. So today I'm going to be your lucky trip driver. In my whole life, I've never driven trains before.
This is lucky.
So you've been trains your whole life?
Oh yes. The nicest thing. Come back now, I will be. I don't know.
Yeah, moment for.
I tried a feeling it.
When your papa, I'm meant to be here too.
Looking good.
Well, it pays to look good, you know, just to confuse the system. Because when you're looking good, no one will know you don't have money in your pocket. Get it?
Lucky Trip shows Saturdays at 5 p.m. on TV3.
Tell me what you're cooking. This week on Kitchen Wars.
I'm in aroma heaven. I know, I like the fact that your area is clean and how it's going.
The battleground is set for 4 more schools to put themselves on the plate and show their culinary supremacy.
We are coming to prepare a dish with a touch of Volta magic.
We are not here to brag. Action speaks louder than words.
We assure you that the judges are going to love what we are going to do. And maybe you could hire us to cook for you at home.
So please wait for us to bring our dishes to you.
Only 1 school will make it past this round into the semi-finals.
Each cup must contain the same color. We have just about 60 seconds to go.
Coming in first place is
Kitchen Wars, your school feed cook.
Kitchen Wars shows Saturdays at 8 p.m. on TV3. Kitchen Wars is powered by Gino Tomato Mix, sponsored by Fernat, and supported by PGL, Homeland, Happy Kitchen, Happy Home, and Napa Foods, Morning Fresh.
This week on The Lady Circle.
On-air personalities come out and talk about their struggles. People are like, what are you talking about?
People are so insensitive.
Yeah.
So insensitive and so numb to other people's pain.
The level of pain you're going through,
the
coping
mechanism
like
you have
is simply inadequate.
Some people feel like, after maybe 1 month or 2 weeks, you should be okay. But it can take somebody at least 3 to 4 years just to be healed.
South Africa,
Nigeria,
Korea,
Tanzania,
Thailand,
India,
Kenya,
Nigeria.
Hey, it's your girl, Miss Drew, your hostess with the mostest. I'm so excited to be joining the beautiful ladies on The Lady Circle this Saturday.
They didn't believe in the Lady Circle, but what? God did!
Lady Circle, every Saturday, 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
Yaz Sanitary Pad,
Woodin.
I coaxed and I pressed, and as I was about to penetrate, my chin touched something.
If the guy has tasted the girl, this thing wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, she knows her problem. She knows what she is facing. So I think she should have told the guy
No. Imagine number 1 tasted her and let go of her. Number 2 tasted her. Can you imagine what her life would be?
You don't need to be asked a question before you open up, because number 1, if you mean the journey, you need to be open and transparent.
If you are not able to tell the guy this thing, what again will you be hiding from the man? I wouldn't be secure ever in that relationship.
When you suffer, do not say you are tempted by God. It is your own desire that has led you to be tempted.
Confessions shows Saturdays at 9 p.m. on TV3.
The act of storytelling and the gift of hearing frequently go hand in hand, and the listener is gladdened by memories of the narration. This week on GMB, our contestants take us back to the days of storytelling.
pending war.
Keep your favorite delegate in the competition by dialing *713*13# or download the TV3 Reality app on Google Play Store or Apple Store to vote. GMB 22, Ghana's beauty, Africa's pride.
GMB 2022 shows Sundays at 8 p.m. and repeats Fridays at 3 p.m.
GMB 2022 is powered by Gino and sponsored by GTP, Airtel Tigo, Techno, Silver Star Auto, Heaven Black Mosquito Coil and Insecticide Spray, and Napa Foods. Supported by
She dey speak, she commands and respect.
Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279 all across the world on 3news.com. We're very, very interactive this morning. So share with us your thoughts across the social media platforms and our WhatsApp as well. My name is Alfred Okanse. My guest joining me in studio already. But before that, for those of you who are just connecting with us, the SIM card re-registration, according to the Minister for Communications, at least until now, says the July 31 deadline still holds, unless, of course, anything changes by tomorrow. We're expecting her to address the press, as has been communicated by the Information Ministry. But let me welcome Sam Nete George. He is a Member of Parliament for the Ningo Prampram constituency, Deputy Ranking Member on the Communications Committee of Parliament. Honorable Sam George, good morning to you. Welcome.
A very good morning. Thank you.
Great. George Anda is a former Deputy Minister of Communications as well, joining me in studio. Zanda, good morning to you.
Good morning, Alfred, and good morning to your viewers.
Welcome. I'll be also joined later by Barnabas Lai, who is also a communications analyst, director of the Africa Digital Economy Forum, as well as the General Secretary of the Mobile Money Agents Association, Evans Otunfo, as well. But take a look at this. This is Esla Osu-Ekufo talking about why the July 31 deadline, in her view, should stay and will not be changed. Take a look.
Enable the establishment of a subscriber database with integrity to keep consumers safe from scams and fraud. It is therefore the responsibility of all of us who own SIM-enabled devices to take part in this registration exercise. Over 12 million Ghanaians have linked their Ghana cards to their SIM cards, and this shows that a lot of us understand the need for this exercise, especially to sanitize the telecommunications environment. I therefore take this opportunity to urge all who've not registered or are yet to register their SIM cards to do so. The deadline of 31st July is a few days away. It will not be extended.
That's Communications Minister Esla Osu-Ekufo. The deadline will not be extended. Those are her words, and you heard it right there. Okay, I earlier showed you how people are racing against time to beat this deadline. In fact, as early as 4 a.m. today, some of these registration centers have been filled with people who are trying to get their Ghana card linked to their SIM card so as to beat this deadline. We're picking some information that this deadline might be extended or a certain process might be put in place to ensure continuous registration after tomorrow. But until then, this is what we know from the Communications Minister. But refresh our minds with the timelines over this period for this registration exercise. That's what you see on the screen there. July 2010 was the first ever national SIM registration exercise. March 2012, the first exercise was expected or communicated to have ended October 3rd, 2021. This current SIM registration with only the Ghana card as a source document began across the country. And the minority have been consistent about raising questions about the Ghana card being the only source document for this registration exercise, especially because people don't have the Ghana card and how people could be affected as a result of their inability to get the Ghana card. And March 31st, 2022, the Communications Ministry extended the deadline with many still unable to acquire the Ghana card. And now the July 31, 2022 deadline, you've heard as they also talk about it not being extended. Honorable Sam George, during the week, addressed the press on behalf of the minority in Parliament, asking the President to instruct the Communications Ministry to extend the deadline. He's with me in studio. So, John, good morning to you once again. So, this is what the Communications Minister has said. There's going to be no extension. What are your issues with the SIM card re-registration so far?
All right. Let me say a very good morning to our viewers again, to the good people of Ningo Pram Pram, to my brother and friend George Anda, who happens to now be my constituent post his parliamentary stint, and served notice that he must be minded how he speaks or responds to his MP.
He's your constituent now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that's your member of parliament?
So if he doesn't do that, he won't get Molly Coco.
You will not serve him Molly Coco.
Let me use this opportunity also to celebrate His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his lovely wife, Madam Lodina Mahama, who this week have celebrated 30 years of a love that is infectious, a love that is worth emulating. In this day and age where it is more common to see couples divorced than staying together. And for people at that level, myself and George haven't gotten to that level. We've been at a lower level, and we can tell you the kind of stress and strain public office has put on our unions. For them to have stuck together this long, it's worth celebrating. And what better way to celebrate it than how they did the 45-bed facility in Bole, for the people of Bole and its environs. And even this morning, as we continue to celebrate them over the weekend, for me, I tap into that blessing so that me too, one day,
you can celebrate 30
years. This year I'm 10.
10?
Yeah, and so
you've gone far.
We are following their footsteps. The other day, me and a brother of mine were discussing, there are about 8 of us who are all in the political space, across the political divide, who got married within weeks of each other. It's just 2 of us who are still together with our spouses. Wow. That's how high the attrition rate is. anyway, but we give God all the glory.
Absolutely.
Now coming to issues of SIM card. Let me start by saying that any act or any policy or any directive that seeks to sanitize our digital space and that seeks to provide government and law enforcement with a credible database of persons who hold SIM cards is wholly supported by the NDC and the Minority Caucus, and I'm duly aligned. In fact, the regime for the registration of SIM cards in this country was a policy direction of the NDC.
As indicated in the timelines that I put out there.
Absolutely. In 2010, under Professor Mills, with Haruna Idrisu as Communications Minister, we went to Parliament with LI 2006, and it was signed into law. It became law in 2011, and that's the Subscriber Identity Model Registration Regulations 2011. As we speak today, there is only one law in Ghana, one law, that governs the registration of SIM cards. Now, before I go into that law, there's a principle of legislation Legislative instruments in themselves are of two kinds. You've got specific legislation, and then you've got omnibus legislation. Now, the omnibus legislations are called Christmas tree legislation or portmanteau legislation because they cover a wide gamut of issues. Then you have specific legislation that is made for specific issues. So take, for example, the constitutional instruments that are laid by the Electoral Commission. Specific legislation for specific issues. You can't use CI 92, for example, for any other thing outside of elections.
Right.
The same Identity Model Registration Regulations 2011, LI 2006, is a specific legislation. It is specific to SIM card registration. So you cannot use LI 2006, even though it is under the ambit of the NCA. You cannot use it for spectrum management, which is also a function of the NCA. So it's specific for SIM registration. I'm stressing on this point so we are clear on that. Now, if this is the only law, the Minister of Communications today has not brought any amendment to this law. So this is still the law.
The 2006 law.
The 2011.
2011.
But it is LI 2006. Now, if you go to section 2 of LI 2006, it is titled, that clause is registration of subscriber identity model. And subscriber identity model, I can't keep saying it repeated. That is SIM, SIM. That's what we call the SIM. Good. Now, this is what the law says. A network operator or service provider shall register a SIM of a subscriber. 2. A subscriber, that is yourself and myself and George, shall, mandatory, shall for the purpose of the registration of the SIM of that subscriber, furnish the network operator, that's the telecom company, or service provider, with the following information. A, the name and residential or occupational address of the subscriber. So my name, my address. B, the date of birth in the case of an individual, in the case of a body corporate incorporation, or registration in the case of a partnership or unincorporated body of persons. And C, an identification document.
It doesn't specify the identification document for this purpose.
We'll get there. So basically the law in 2.2 says there are 3 things I need to provide. My name and address, my date of birth, and an identification document. Now when I go to section 10 of LI 2006, it interprets for me and you and Eslausu and the whole government what the words used in the bill are, or the legislative instrument are. In this regulation, section 10, unless the context otherwise requires, identification document for a citizen includes I, a valid driver's license, II, a valid national health insurance identification card, III, a valid passport, IV, a valid voter's identification card, V, which is 5, a valid national identity card, which we call Ghana card. That's what we call, that's the national identity card, or VI, any other valid form of identification document the authority may determine, that's the NCA, may determine by publication in the Gazette and a daily newspaper. So these are what identification documents are. Now, of these 5, which have been stated, and then a 6th option for the minister or the authority to designate another, we don't know which it is. We have 5. I am aligned to the school of thought that says you can't use all 5. You can only use 4. The National Health Insurance Card, by virtue of the functioning of the ruling in the Abu Ramadan versus Electoral Commission case, you can no longer use the National Health Insurance Card. But your valid driver's license, valid passport, valid voter's ID card, and your national ID card, which is the Ghana card, are legal to be used. So why we have government restricting the registration to only the Ghana card beats my imagination.
So you've established a number of things. So there's an LI 2006.
Yes.
And that LI specifies this SIM registration process. In that LI, it gives details of the requirements for anybody to go through the SIM registration,
Yes.
which you applied in 2010.
Yes.
Now, there's another law which you have just quoted that details the form of identification that anybody should provide in the process of registering.
Yes.
And there are a number of identification sources and not just the Ghana card.
Yes.
And you're saying that this law still stands, has not been amended, but we have a restriction to the Ghana card.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Because the agents of this government, it's not just the Minister for Communications. We've seen the Bank of Ghana do same with bank accounts, are interpreting another specific legislation to be an omnibus law. And that is the LI 2111. So we finished LI 2006, passed by the NDC, by Haruna Idrisu as Minister for Communications. The following year, the same Haruna Idrisu, under the same Professor Mills, goes to Parliament and passes another specific legislation, the National Identity Register Regulations,
which gives some more details,
of 2012 for a different thing entirely. The first one was titled SIM Registrations Regulations. So that was to help the NCA. It talks about an authority in that LI. The authority there is the NCA, the National Communications Authority. So it was an LI specific to the NCA. That's why I started and told you, even under the NCA, there are a number of LIs. This LI cannot even be used for another function of the NCA, which is spectrum management.
That's right.
Now, this National Identity Register Regulations is for a completely different agency, which at the time used to be under the Minister for Communications, the National Identification Authority, NIA. Now, the NIA has a mandate in its parent law to compile a national identity register. That has nothing to do with SIM cards.
Registration.
Now, by virtue of the thinking of government at the time, the NDC government at the time, we intended to make the national card a final one-stop card, integrated with a number of other biometric cards that existed, create a national database. Now, because you were introducing the Ghana card after you had had several other legislations and things done, you wanted to ensure that there would be a gradual move to the Ghana card being one of the or a one-stop shop. And I think that's a policy idea this government shares. And so you decide that since there are already other laws in operation that mandate specific cards or identification documents to be used, and you are now coming to pass a law or a legislation for the Ghana card, you should make it mandatory that for all Ghana's government services, irrespective of any other card, that prior to the coming into force of a Ghana card were used for identification, the Ghana card should also be accepted. So in section 7 of LI 2111, you have what we call the mandatory use of the national identity card. Now let me read. And it's very important we pay attention to the words. 7.1, a national identity card, which is a Ghana card, issued to an individual shall be used for the following transactions where identification is required. Now, I'll read it again. A national identity card issued to an individual shall be used. Shall. Mandatory. It means that card must be used. So if I go for the acquisition of a government service, which is the passport, before the coming into force of this LI, I needed to present an old passport or a birth certificate. Now, because of the function of this law, it then means that if I am unable to present a passport or a birth certificate, I can present a Ghana card. And you must accept it. Even though when you take the legislation that governs the issuance of passports, in that legislation, a Ghana card is not part of it. So you realize that if you did not make a mandatory use of the Ghana card in this legislation, presenting the Ghana card for services that predate the existence of the Ghana card, people would have questioned the basis for it.
That's right.
So you needed to make it mandatory that for all other services, take for example, if I wanted to get a driver's license, prior to the Ghana card, I would have had to go with a voter's ID card or a passport to get a driver's license. Now we've added a driver's license. So if I don't have any of those, or if I have any of those and I choose to come with my Ghana card, accept the Ghana card. So there is a list of about 14 things that you can do with
That's
it.
why the expression shall.
Shall.
Okay.
So it means that anybody offering a service
is mandated
to, in addition to whatever other cards, the laws that authorize you to provide that service, you should also accept anybody who shows up with a Ghana card, because the Ghana card is a creation of law from 2012. But we've been running this country since 1957, and there's been legislation for provision of services. And in all of those legislations, in most of those legislations, there was no provision for a national identity card as a valid document to be used. Do not forget that even with the banks, at a point in time, after the Ghana card was issued, they couldn't accept the Ghana card because they couldn't verify it.
True.
You understand me? So you needed to create the legal framework for that to happen. Now, how the ministry and the Bank of Ghana have taken this provision in this specific legislation to become a Christmas tree legislation, an omnibus legislation, that would then supersede the legislation that is specific to SIM registration beats my mind. And now let me show you one important thing. In this legislation, in section 23 of this LI that they quote, I'll read something to you. Section 23 is a revocation clause. Normally in Parliament, when we are passing legislation, if you feel that the new legislation you are passing supersedes an existing legislation, or will contradict with it, or create a difficulty in its operation, you revoke either the entirety of that old law or portions that are in conflict. And so there's a revocation clause here that revokes some existing legislation. Let me read. Legislative instruments made under the Identity Cards Act, 1972, NRCD 129, and in force immediately before the commencement of these regulations are hereby revoked. So it means that we had an Identity Card Act of 1972. This LI 2111 revokes that. This LI 2111 did not revoke LI 2006, which is the legislation for registration of SIM cards. And so if that law has not been revoked, and that law is still functional, and that law is the only law for registration of SIM cards, and that law even takes into cognizance the Ghana card and accepts it, how then do you say you will not allow the valid driver's license, the valid passport, the valid voter's registration card, or a valid Ghana card as registration documents? And you see, let's put all the legalists I've spoken about aside. Common sense. If you answer, common sense. Today, I don't have a Ghana card.
You don't have a Ghana card?
No, I don't. I've not been able to get one because, again, you see the queues there. If I'm to go for the queues there, George Anders people will most likely bring me before Privileges Committee that I've missed 15 days because I will not get my card in 15 days with the queues that are there. And then I just afford them to happen to me.
Since he has mentioned my
so, let me land. I'm landing.
So
take it right into your digital part.
Why he hasn't got a Ghana card is that when the Ghana cards were being issued, he and his NDC told Ghanaians that they shouldn't go for the cards.
Right now, he's become Holy Spirit. He's been able to reveal to you.
So that's to say that you haven't gone through the SIM registration.
Now that we have come on recess, I intend to take 1 month to go and queue.
But I said tomorrow is the deadline.
Oh, forget it. That one, Kasayam from the minister is just talking.
The minister is just talking.
Don't please
value it.
Listen, the minister does not have the power. Listen, let me tell you something. Article 296 of our constitution is very clear. Yes, the minister has administrative power, authority. But Article 296 of the Constitution says you cannot exercise administrative authority in an arbitrary or capricious manner. Hey, what the minister is trying to do is not just arbitrary and capricious. It is malicious capricious, it is ill-intended, it is whimsical, it is illogical. How do you tell me that I have a SIM card that is registered by law? You want to do a new re-registration. You are bypassing the legal requirements, setting your own marking scheme, your own requirements. Your requirements demand that I go to another state institution, the NIA. It is only the NIA that can issue me a Ghana card. The NIA is unable to issue me a Ghana card. Forget about me who has not been able to register. There are constituents of mine who have registered since 2018 who have not been able to get their cards. There are people who have misplaced their cards and for the past 6 months have been chasing the NIA for replacements. So all of those people are not able to register their SIM card, not because, like some they don't have a SIM card, a Ghana card. They have, or there's a problem with their SIM card. Some even have the SIM cards, but when they try to link it to their SIM, the Ghana card, when they try to link it to their SIM cards, they are told it is invalid. All of those people, by function of the inability of a state agency to provide them a public service, you say you are going to punish them for the inefficiencies of the state agency, not their own making. Is that not arbitrary? Is that not capricious? Is that not an abuse of their human rights? And then the telcos, I beg you, let me land. The telcos, don't worry, George, we'll give you plenty time. The telcos who, we go to IMF.
Yes.
When John Mahama and NDC went to IMF, they gave us like $1 billion over 3 years. $1 billion per. This one that we are going now, get $2 billion. Okay. $2 billion. That's what we are going to the IMF for.
A number of
George's former entity alone that he used to work for, MTN, over the past 7 years has invested in excess of $1.5 billion in capex infrastructure in Ghana. If you put all the telcos together, it's in excess of the $2 billion that we are going to IMF for. This is what the telcos do. Government is complaining of funds and revenue. The telecom companies are the second largest taxpayers in Ghana. How do they pay the second largest tax? The calls that me and you make, CST, corporate tax, that they pay. They are only able to pay that quantum of taxes to government because we make phone calls. George calls his wife, honey, I love you, I'm coming home. I call my wife, Davi, I'm hungry. And all of that. Those calls that we make and the data we use is what the telcos use to pay government. So if you then come and take almost 8 million of us off their network, how much are they going to pay you?
So, George, before we come to, let's go to the Ashanti region. You know, we've been gauging how the last 48 hours looks like across the country. My colleague, William Evansinkum, is at one of the registration centers. Mr. Permit me. And William, good morning to you. Now, tell me what's happening behind you. I see a long queue.
Absolutely. So that is what you see. It's very clear. So this is the more points of the MTN. And already this morning, we woke up to hear that we are creating an excess of 6,000 points with agents flooded in the region just to ensure that people or subscribers meet the deadline, which is tomorrow. This week, of course, we've reported that it's been a week of frustration, chorus of public indignation as far as the Ashanti region is concerned. I mean, multiplicity of issues. One has to do with the fact that people, even though they've registered, they are yet to secure their NIA cards. I mean, the people whose names have also generated some level of error in the database, they have to go through the process again and get them corrected. That one hasn't been done. Then, of course, there are complaints of defects on the chip. I'm talking about a chip inside the NIA card. There are defects. So people are also unable to secure a new one, which will enable them go through the SIM registration. As of last week, MTN, which is one of the giants in the telecommunication enclave, has registered or had actually received about 5.3 million applicants. About 3 million subscribers have had their SIM card linked. I mean, that is the first step, where you impute your Ghana card, and then the second step, which of course will also get your biometric details, which of course complete the process. The second step, we're talking about 2 million subscribers who have completed the process. So this is as of last week. I mean, 7 days old as far as this particular data is concerned. So I'm sure now the numbers probably might have gone up. We don't have the latest data yet, but this data or these figures I'm telling you, I mean, I got it from the MTN. That was as of last week. So that's the situation here. I mean, the more points, people in the queue. The office is likely to open around 8:30, but my understanding is that some even arrive here as early as 5 a.m. just to catch the early bird. And this is what we are going to see, I mean, across the Ashanti region, Alfred.
William, thank you so much for that situational report of what's happening in the Ashanti region. It's no different across the country, and we've been at this for the past 7 days, testing the situation there and letting you know what's happening across all 16 regions. So many people who haven't had access to their Ghana card, at least that's what we know, and then those who have access to the Ghana card are having some difficulty also linking their Ghana card to the SIM in that process that has been set out by the NC and the telcos. William Evansinkum is Ashanti Regional Correspondent and also our chief there. Thank you so much, William. So, Sandra, we've had a number of, I allowed Sam George run through a number of layers, the legal situation, the framework as we have it, and the challenges with the law, which he has been quite consistent about, and the details of the law which has not been amended. That does not necessarily restrict the source document for the registration of the SIM card to just the Ghana card. But that's contrary to what we're having now. And then also the operational issues of people going to the centers and not being able to register, even if they have the Ghana card, because as stated, some people are told that either your maiden name is there or they can't even find some detail. Some don't even have the Ghana card. Others have gone through the process and are awaiting their Ghana card. In the face of all of this, would you still recommend that July 31 tomorrow deadline still holds, or to apply some level of consideration?
Thank you very much, Alfred. And once again, let me say good morning to our viewers, especially those in the Woods in your West. I've received a number of messages. Somebody sent me a message that if I don't say good morning to you, I shouldn't come back to the constituency.
So you're going to contest again?
Sugar Ray, good morning, Sugar Ray, Francis, all of you that are watching.
So we should expect you to contest again?
I don't think that that's a matter for
I'm just asking, since you are saying good morning to them.
Well, I mean, it's my constituency. I'm part of the community, so there's nothing wrong with me saying good morning to them. And I think that first we should recognize the fact that nobody is being insensitive to the challenges that some Ghanaians are generally going through in trying to get their SIMs registered. But let us also recognize the fact that if there's any one industry that can facilitate or drive the mass rollout of the national ID card or the Ghana card, it certainly is the telecoms sector. And my brother Sam George would agree with me. So Sam has read certain laws, but in the LI 2006, there's a section of that law that gives the NCA the power to provide guidelines for the registration of SIMs. Now, we should also realize the fact that different cards or different instruments, for that matter, serve different purposes. So, a national passport, the primary use of a national passport is certainly not as a form of identification. The primary use of a national passport is for international travel. The primary use of a driver's license is for driving. The primary use of a health insurance card is for that purpose. It can have a secondary use in the event that the proper instrument for ID is not in place. So when the national ID card was not in place, we were all, as a nation, tolerant to using other cards as a form of ID, but that was the secondary function of those cards. Now, the Honorable Minister of Communication has a goal to build the National SIM Identity Register. And it's because there are a lot of sectors that rely on the mobile or on the yes, let's say the mobile networks or the SIMs as an integral part or as a platform to run their services. So you take the health sector, they rely on it. You take the agri sector, they rely on it. You take the financial sector, they rely on it. You take security, they rely on it. I mean, education. I mean, during COVID, you realize that most of the virtual lessons, okay, could not have happened if we didn't have a digital platform in place. So there's a big task on making sure that the integrity of the National SIM Identity Register is not compromised. Earlier on, I did comment that my brother Sam George hasn't got a Ghana card because he refused to go for a Ghana card. When the good people of Ghana were going for Ghana cards, when the system was in place, he and his NDC colleagues were shouting, telling people not to go for their Ghana card. Some of these things, we should put partisanship aside and look at it from the national interest point of view. Recently, no, not recently, when the Honorable Minister announced the SIM re-registration process, another good friend of ours, Ras Mubarak, was going out saying that it was illegal, telling people not to register their SIMs. Again, we need to put aside some of these political things and look at what is in the best interest of the nation. Dialogue and stakeholder engagement is extremely important. And if you look at this current situation, I see that there's a tripod of three stakeholders. There's the government, there's the mobile network operators, and there's you and I, let's say, subscribers. And all of us have interest in this matter. So some have spoken about how the network operators, not just mobile network operators, but even if you say the broadband wireless access operators also have a challenge because they also need to have their SIMs registered. And they all have to make sure that this thing is done in a seamless way, not to inconvenience their subscribers. It is true that previously there may have been such challenges. It is true that there are genuine concerns as at now that if a blanket deactivation of unregistered SIMs happens, all of these stakeholders are going to be affected. Government will be affected because, like Sam said, a number of these SIMs are revenue generating. I mean, and Sam, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Indeed.
I do recall that as at April, when the NCA announced the number of active SIMs in the market, it was about 41 million.
42 million.
42 million.
So even let's say for the
Let's say
purpose
40 million.
Yes. Of an easy back of envelope calculation, let's say 40 million, and we are hearing that about 15 million people have registered or that have linked their SIM cards to their Ghana card. Okay, so for the purpose of a quick back of envelope calculation, let us even take it to 20 million. Let's say with all the rush, there's been some significant increase. So let's say 20 million. So 20 million out of 40 million, which means that there's another like 20 million that are supposed to be revenue generating SIMs, active SIMs in the market that unfortunately have not been able to link their Ghana card to their SIMs. Now, linking the Ghana card to the SIM is one step of the process. That's the first one before you actually get your SIM registered. So we are not even talking about those that have been successful in as far as registering their SIMs. So if you look at it, there is a genuine reason why there are concerns in what could happen after 31st of July. But that said, I have worked with the Honorable Minister before, and she's a listening person, and she's very, very keen on making sure that everything that is under her responsibility, there's significant stakeholder engagement. So I am aware that even as of yesterday, there were meetings with stakeholders, the
telcos,
the operators, the regulator, the mobile money vendors, mobile money agents, and stuff like that. Are there genuine reasons why people haven't registered their SIMs, apart from those that have just decided that don't do it just because they just don't want to do it? So let's put those people in one bucket. As for those people, if we can identify them as 1, 2, 3, I would say that yank them off. But what about those people that have tried to obtain a Ghana card and haven't been able to get a Ghana card? Okay, what about those people that are still queuing at the Ghana card offices and haven't got access to even initiate the process of getting a Ghana card? What about those people that have been able to link their Ghana cards to their SIMs and haven't been able to have their SIMs registered? So there are different pockets of people that genuinely don't have access to don't have access to be able to register their SIMs. And if you take Ghanaians that are even staying outside that have SIMs that are working and have mobile money accounts on those SIMs, because the Ghana card operation has not been able to extend to our foreign missions, there's a bit of a challenge
over there as well.
Over there with access. So yes, there are some genuine concerns that have to be looked at. I mean, he's speaking about the SIMs that are generating revenue activity, which by implication would have an impact on the revenue or the taxes that the network operators pay to government. This needs to be looked at. We're looking at people that have mobile money on their SIMs. They have balances on their SIMs. If we are not careful, it could lead to another rush withdrawals of mobile money. It will affect
very important.
It would affect a number of different things, including the taxes that we expect to get from the e-levy. So I think, if you ask me, there must be some kind of route act going out. There must be some conditions if the Honorable Minister and the Honorable Minister is informed by the stakeholder engagements to consider the extension of the SIM cards. So number one,
it's important. I mean, you outlined very, very legitimate issues which the Ghanaian people have been talking about all the while. So based on, and I have to say this, that Xander here has very proven track record celebrated in this telecommunications industry. That's why you speak to these things with that top of mind awareness. But based on all these things that you have said, and with your experience in this sector, would you recommend an extension of this?
Well, I would suggest an extension based on certain conditions.
What are those conditions?
Okay, so one, I think that we must all move away from the barrier that we are putting in place of using the national ID card as the only card and saying that they should use passports, they should use driver's. I think we've moved away from that discussion. There are reasons why we are using the Ghana card, and that reason should be accepted.
If that's the case, so there's probably be an amendment of the law to support the process, and that's what Sam George was talking about earlier.
I don't agree that you should include other forms of other instruments that have the secondary function of identification. I think that the law makes it clear that the Ghana card is a primary source of identifying residents, non-resident Ghanaians, and foreigners in Ghana. Okay, and we should stick to that law. I think that the NCA is mandated to provide guidelines and direction as to how SIM registration or SIM re-registration in this matter should go on. So on that point, some and I may differ, okay? But let us put that discussion aside. There are some of these genuine issues. So you're asking me what are some of these conditions? I think, okay, if the network operators, for example, are able to isolate these buckets of subscribers that don't have their SIMs registered, and maybe make it a bit inconvenient for them for a couple of days. So it's like a slap on the back of the hand, okay? And also the NIA doing more than what they are doing now to make sure that they clear the backlog of people that are trying to get access to their Ghana cards. So once you clear the backlog of people that are trying to get access to their Ghana card, once you are able to make sure that a significant base of your subscribers have been able to link their Ghana cards to their SIMs, okay, then you're moving away from that 50% back of envelope calculation that with that. You probably get about 80, because some of them may just be, unwilling to go. I don't think that we're looking at 100% success rate. And there's going to be ongoing registration for new SIMs as well. So that should not be too much of a problem. So I think that maybe either you restrict their call activity. Can they receive calls? Can they not make calls? Can they not make calls on one day? Okay. Are there other things that practically we can do to let those that have been affected, especially those that are unwilling to register, know that this is serious? So one, I disagree with a blanket extension. I think that there could be consideration for an extension with certain conditions, but we should also make sure that the National Identification Authority provides additional access points or provides additional ways for people to be able to obtain their Ghana card. Is it possible that because sometimes we hear in the news that one of the challenges is that the physical cards may not be available for the printing to take.
But talk about that.
Sorry, just if I could. Okay, is it possible, like for example, there could be some virtual numbers or virtual cards, okay, issued out, so just for the purpose of this, and then that could be rectified at the back end when the cards are there to be printed. I don't know whether it's true that there are no physical cards or there's a shortage of physical cards in certain districts, but I've heard that from the news.
I wanted to dwell on that point because Professor Kenatefa says over 200 offices are operational. That's number one, and there's a backlog of cards that have been printed that have not been indeed taken by the people who own these cards. And I want us to take a listen to him. That's Professor Kenatefa. He is the Executive Secretary of the National Identification Authority. Take a look.
Yes. So we have 292 offices operating nationwide, and registration services are being delivered at these places. And the reality is that there are at least, from the data as of today, there are about 16,969,034 Ghanaians who have been enrolled onto the National Identity Register. Out of that number, 16,535,623 cards have been printed. And of that number, 15,702,719 have been issued to people. So what it means is that at minimum, 15.7 million cards are available to be linked to SIM cards. The question would be, how many of these have been linked to date? And I think that the important thing is to recognize that the number of Ghana cards available far exceed.
That's Professor Kenatefu. I decided to just bring it in based on that point that you made. So if there are 292 offices operational, how can that complement the process of addressing this challenge that you talk about? Because, I mean, if these offices are operational, we should have some level of, at least, speed in the process of people going through the registration and having access to the cards to at least prevent what we are saying now.
You see, Alfred, I mean, just drive by our stadium.
As early as 4 a.m. this morning, people had queued.
It is not some doing propaganda about it. It is a reality. You understand? Now, also bear in mind that there's a significant amount of dual SIMing in this market. So even if we are assuming that all the 15,000 or 15 million people that have been given Ghana cards, are genuine subscribers of all the operators combined. If you assume that everybody has 2 SIMs, yeah, which is very conservative because it could be more than that, but let's say one for voice, one for data, plus or minus, okay, then it means that you expect that 30 million SIMs would have been linked to the Ghana card. But from what we're getting 20 million SIMs. So from this analysis, there are 2 buckets that are problematic. One, those that have access to the Ghana card but have not been able to link their Ghana card to their SIMs. And those that don't have the Ghana card at all, okay, and are struggling to get the Ghana card to be able to link the Ghana card to their SIM. That is the first process.
That's right.
Okay, it's after that, after you have successfully linked your Ghana card to your SIM, then you go through the capture of the biometrics and stuff like that. So you understand? So I don't think that we should be excited or we should be happy about the situation that 20 million, I mean, again, let me take it up, instead of the 50 million, let me say 20 million Ghana cards have been issued. They are genuine. I mean, it's something that you go out on the streets and you hear people complaining that they haven't had access to their Ghana card or they've registered it. But you also made a point that there are people whose cards have been issued but haven't picked up those cards. Okay, I mean, some of these people are joining the queue to get new cards. You understand? Just for them to get access to be served, to be served, and for them to pick up their cards. So I think sometimes some of these processes need to be streamlined a bit more. I mean, you could have a point for people that are going to pick up their cards, then new registrations. And again, I mean, we should be able to use the phone device. I mean, sending messages.
In a digital age.
Yeah, sending messages to them that this is where you should pick up your card at this time. I mean, not everybody will be able to read the text messages, but I'm sure that we have enough information, the primary number, secondary number, a guarantor and stuff like that we can be able to identify who these people are.
Mr. Georganda there. And now Mr. Derek Laye is Director of Africa Digital Economic Forum. He is connecting with us on Zoom. Let me acknowledge him. Mr. Laye, good morning to you.
Good morning, Alfred. How are you, my brother?
Well, thank you. And thank you for connecting with us.
Good morning to my big bosses in the room, George and George.
Indeed.
Good morning, Derek. How are you?
The Pope. Fine, senior.
Indeed. I'll go for this quick break. When I come back, we'll hear him and come back in studio as well. Find out if there has to be an extension from Mr. Sam George. Mr. George Anda is recommending an extension with some considerations. I'll find out from Mr. Sam George and then also Derek Laya as well. Stay with me. We'll be back shortly. This is Keep On.
There are so many places we dream of being, and people we would love to share these moments with. Well, that power can be in your hands. Life is now. Sign up to our credit card and enjoy up to 45 days interest-free credit so you can ease your cash flow for other investments. Join the Visa Exclusive Club with a priority pass to over 1,200 airport lounges, a collection of luxury hotels and global concierge services, 24/7 customer service, multi-trip insurance and emergency top-ups. Track your expenses and payments easily. Use on over 24 million ATMs worldwide with rewards and discounts at selected merchants and cashback for every purchase you make. All with the flexibility of blocking and unblocking your card.
There's Republic Visa Classic, Adishi, Business and Infinite Credit Cards.
Republic Bank, we are the one for you.
The act of storytelling and the gift of hearing frequently go hand in hand, and the listener is gladdened by memories of the narration. This week on GMB, our contestants take us back to the days of storytelling.
I sense an impending war.
Keep your favorite delegate in the competition by dialing *713 *13# or download the TV3 Reality app on Google Play Store or Apple Store to vote. GMB 22, Ghana's beauty, Africa's pride.
GMB 2022 shows Sundays at 8 p.m. and repeats Fridays at 3 p.m.
GMB 2022 is powered by Gino and sponsored by GTP, Airtel Tigo, Techno, Silver Star Auto, Heaven Black Mosquito Coil and Insecticide Spray, and Napa Foods. Supported by
She dey speak, she commands and respect.
Wherever you're watching us from, this is us on the Kids Arena once again to be creating a motorized coloring board. When you came to Talented Kids, we all knew you as a hairstylist. So where from now being a makeup artist?
One day I woke up and I told my mom to get me makeup kit. She came back from work and she astonished me with a makeup kit. And I take my dummy, do makeup, I take my child, do makeup, and I had to get perfect because practice make my perfect.
You said when you were 6, you discovered your talent for singing. Yes.
Kids Arena shows Saturdays at 10 a.m. on TV3. Don't miss it.
Welcome back to Key Point. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Also on 3FM 92.7. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Sam Nate George is a member of parliament for the Ningo Pram constituency. He is a deputy ranking member on the Communications Committee of Parliament. And George Anda is the former deputy minister of communications and also Derek Lai, Director, Africa Digital Economic Forum, also connecting with us on Zoom. And also with you as well, many of you commenting. I have hundreds of comments coming through. I'll read as many as possible. But this morning, I'll remind you of the niche chocolate drink. Is the taste of Ghana. What you have here, and Ms. George, you can actually enjoy it. That's the niche chocolate drink exclusive.
I can testify. I've drank some.
You've drunk some.
Bella gave me some on the morning show.
Super.
It's part of the reason why when TV3 calls me, I agreed to come.
You've come
that day
because
when I came and I was going to give me a hamper. I hope that today they will give me a hamper. The hamper inside, they should make sure that there are 3 of this one because I have 3 kids. Because if you give me 2, it will create World War III in my house. So they should just add, because it is good. But look, this is 100% Ghanaian. It's a Ghanaian company.
Indeed.
You know, Ghanaian cocoa, it's healthy. So I endorse this.
What more can I say? So that's exactly what it is. Niche, the taste of Ghana. Unfortunately, Mr. Derek Lai cannot have one because he's connecting with us virtually.
He said
but we'll find a way.
He's afraid if he comes here, the things is coming to say national security. I didn't mention anybody's name. We'll chase him. So I'll drink his for him.
But you could dispatch it to me or some to carry it out during the day.
Lai, I bring you in here at this point, and clearly, Mr. Sam George has established the legal framework and why we need to look at the law if we have to go on this path. Amended to reflect what government is doing now, because in principle, as is stated consistently, the minority or the NDC is not in disagreement with this process to link SIM cards with the Ghana card detail to check all these infractions we have. Mr. George Anda talked about his proposal that there should be a consideration for an extension, but with some considerations. Find out your thoughts about this. Now that we know a number of people have not been able to link their Ghana cards to their SIM because of all the difficulties we've seen, but at least until now, the minister is consistent about the July 31 deadline. Mr. Lai.
Thank you, Alfred. Thank you, Alfred, again. And I joined in the discussion. I've been listening. I think that Honorable Sam provided a very good context with regards to the legal basis as to where we find ourselves today. You know, at the time when the law came, interestingly, myself and my boss, former minister Deputy Minister for Communications, Honorable George, and we used to be at MTN together. So I remember then as service providers, we used to argue a lot about we wanted biometrics to be captured as part of the process, and then government, I remember Haruna said, no, we cannot do that. There's no time, and we used to do a lot of engagement. So it's interesting now we are on the other side of the table, and there's a different kind of conversation going on now. But I think first of all to say that we at the Africa Digital Economic Forum, we basically monitored this process up to this point. And I just want to start by saying that first of all, we are more interested in digital inclusion rather than digital exclusion. And I believe that is the same kind of objective that government has for its digitization drive that it seeks. And I shared with you a couple of days ago that this is not a new conversation at all, and that even at the start of 2021, over 157 countries have mandated or have directed similar SIM registration programs and for purposes of benchmarking. Today, where we stand now in regards to Nigeria started SIM registration years back. It was put on hold. It was restarted in 2020, and they've shifted the deadline for I think about 3 or 4 times, and the last deadline was March 2022. At the end of March 2022, the NCC, the regulator in Nigeria, simply issued a directive that said that everybody should seek to be able to get their name cards and basically be able to do the linking and get registered as well. So even though the match is up until now, there's been no directive yet because they appreciate the differences. Of course, this is Africa. There's a lot of inherent challenges that are not necessarily caused by citizens. So where we stand now with regards to our program or our processes that I think I shared a couple of days ago also that over 3 million people today are without Ghana cards. And then also the NIA has shared over 1.5 million cards are registered, but these are cards that are sitting with the NIA. Honorable Sam George spoke about Ghanaians using SIM cards Ghanaians who have SIM cards who are outside of Ghana and cannot legitimately be registered because they were promised an online solution that also never materialized. Then we have people with genuine mistakes on their ID card, on their Ghana card. So you have married women who are now somebody was 30 now, Mrs. Lai. They have mismatch on their cards, and they need to be able to correct that. And then we have foreign nationals also who live in Ghana. NIA is supposed to provide them with cards if they are staying over 3 months, and what the law also prescribes for such incidents. And then also for company SIM cards. In the past, there's been registration documents, and then also I think registration certificates have been used by service providers to basically capture these cards. Now, service providers are expected to take directors' IDs and verify them together with the documents, and that's not completed. And when we come to the service provider issues, I think I know a bit of those things. And you have legacy systems were asked to be shut down, and everybody was asked to go through a junction, which I can assure you today there's going to be a lot of jam, because when there's a load on the system, there's a lot of error. And there's a lot of freezes on the platform. And so people are just going to stay in queues today and productive hours. So it's Saturday. We need to be able to provide clarity, policy predictability, policy guidance. And then I think for personally, from where I sit, I think that the Minister of Communications can be able to give herself a bit of breather by allowing the NCA to take the heat, go on the ground, and provide guidance in terms of what the regulation is, or what the regulatory plan should be with regards to where we are right now and in the debacle that we find ourselves. We need to appreciate the fact that I keep saying that NIA cards are not printed in our homes, or they're not printed in our backyards. This is a function of the mandate that belongs to a government agency. And we need to be able to enforce the deadlines if the NIA says that they are completed with their task. Today, from where we sit, NIA has been clear that their mandate is not tied to a SIM registration deadline. Then also we have broadband wireless access people like Cefline, Busy4G, Telesol, and co. And I know Honorable Georgianda also talked about them. And for them, it's interesting because they started their registration just about 10 days ago. They've shared concerns as to the time they need DVAX for 3 months, and we are hearing that they're going to get about a month. And then also concern with people with disabilities, and that. So looking at these concerns and all of these challenges that I've just spoken about, it's important that we need to be able to provide clarity, provide better context, a lot more policy relaxation, and let's start having a conversation as to how we want to be able to support the Ghanaian, because this is a kind of project that you don't force people. You tactfully coerce, you tactfully encourage, let them understand the importance. Because I've been in the sector for a long time, and I support SIM registration with everything in me. And I'm interested that we are able to have a sector where you can be able to engage anybody on the network because the person can be identified. Today, we don't have that. And a lot of the reason why we don't have that is because also in 2011, we were enforcing deadlines, and we were being strict about the deadlines. What is going to happen is that when you force people at this time, people are going to get themselves still on the register or the database through dubious means. And that would defeat the process, or that would defeat the purpose of what we are trying or we are seeking to build. Then about the implications of where we are right now. Look, you bring the economy to a halt if we attempt to be able to block or deactivate SIM cards. Now, first of all, I'm looking for the legal basis upon which this would happen, because the legal basis is troubling. When I look at the kind of commentary that has gone on over the last few days about what we seek to do to the sector and at the end of tomorrow, the legal basis for that is a bit troubling, and I'm seeking to understand what powers exist, or what law the minister will be using to deactivate, or will be able to give an extension, and what conditions there will be or there will not be. I know Honorable George has spoken about he would give an extension on conditions. I've heard some commentary already as of last night that there are conditions looking at if we can prevent people from using data so that they can, until they register their SIM, they will not be able to use their data and all of those things. I think that we need to look at all of those things clearly, because we basically are going to exclude people. And in a country like this, where today, by virtue of where we sit, considering the way the economy is, you know that a lot of the economy is driven by the SIM card.
Indeed.
And a lot of people are the digital economy and the financial transactions and everything that are happening on the back of the economy, a lot of it is driven with the SIM card. So there's supposed to be a lot of support to be able, because I don't think that people don't want to do it, but I think that people just don't have the card. Some of them don't have the card. The NIA itself has said that it is working to be able to provide the cards. When did the NIA start the Ghana card registration process? We've been at this from 2009. So I think that we need to be able to provide a lot of support, encourage the Ghanaian rather than antagonize them, so that we can get the people to register properly. These are my initial submissions.
Wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Derek Lai. So initially, Mr. George, you were talking about the powers of the minister. I earlier played a tape preceding this conversation where she says, you know what, July 31, it will not be extended. You're saying that, Mr. George, she doesn't have the power to issue such a directive. That's the point.
Myself, yes. And I just want to read, where's it? Article 296. The minister's powers are discretionary powers. Those administrative powers are discretionary powers. Article 296 of the Constitution says, where in this Constitution or in any other law, like the ones that we've cited, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. When the minister chooses to deprive me of the use of my SIM card, whether wholly or partially, it should be fair. When my inability to register that SIM card is no fault of mine, but a fault of a state agency, the NIA. That's a question we should ask ourselves. The exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious. Okay, let me take them one by one. Arbitrary. Did the minister just wake up and give a deadline, or did she consult with all the stakeholders to see if what her directive was actually sound and logic and feasible technically? If she failed to do that, which is why you have this mess, that action is arbitrary. Is it capricious? Meaning, is it with ill intent? That one, since I am not in the mind of the minister, I will pass no judgment on her intention of it being ill or good. So that I will pass. But on arbitrariness, I can state without any equivocation in my mind that it's been arbitrary. Because if she has thought this through well, the technical expertise available to her and in this industry, even if she had consulted her former deputy minister, I'm most certain she wouldn't have gone down this route. But you see, the point we need to make here, he says the minister listens. We've been engaging the minister. The minister knows the people she listens to.
Mr.
Since October last year.
As long as who listens.
She listens to him. But if you have an umbrella on your head and you don't have an elephant ear, she won't listen to you. The elephant she listens to, umbrella she won't listen, because we've been engaging Madame Eslowusu as a minority caucus since October last year on these issues.
And what has been the outcome of these engagements?
It's been like pouring water on stone. Can I come in? Look, let's make a point clear. You know, and Derek makes some fantastic.
You want to respond on that point?
I think that we should avoid personalizing this issue with the Honorable Minister. Okay, I think the Honorable Minister acts on behalf of government and is the lead person from government as far as the sector is concerned. So on the issues that he has raised, that it wasn't thought through, it was capricious, etc., etc. I mean, and my brother Sam himself knows that it's not something that the Honorable Minister, as an individual, got up and made an announcement. I did say in my earlier submissions that there have been significant, or there are significant engagement of stakeholders along the process. When I was in the ministry, I was part of those stakeholder engagements, and everybody that was part of that stakeholder group was allowed to contribute. There was an extension to the initial deadline. So it's not something that was ill-intended. There's a current situation that we have all agreed that based on the current situation, there could be consideration for an extension. I think we should take it out from there.
Let me establish for you why I disagree with my brother George. I've tried to stay away from bringing this part of the conversation out, but maybe it's important Ghanaians know now. Why are we where we are?
Why are we where we are?
Yes. Do you need to have over 16 million people walk to a center to go and link Ghana card to SIM card? Do you need to really have that done?
But that's not what it is. You don't have to walk to a center.
You have to. After you have your Ghana card, you have to walk to a telco and have them recapture your biometrics.
No. The point you said that you walk to a center to link your Ghana card to your SIM
Yes.
card.
No.
Okay,
No,
so
and I'm saying- no.
The telco offices are not centers.
No, listen. To capture your biometrics is a separate matter. Okay, you are talking about
George,
linking.
George, let me-
we are talking about linking. No, because we don't have to confuse.
If I
we
get
don't
the
have to
understanding,
confuse.
so the point is that if the entire process of re-registration, if it was digitalized and not necessarily having any physical
I think you should really let me make
presence,
my point. Then you get the point. I'm
to
where
have
I'm going.
somebody go to
Maybe
the office to
George
capture the
knows where I'm
document.
going. He wants to stop.
It's because
today,
you probably miscommunicated.
No.
You are talking about
Today.
linking the Ghana card to your SIM card, and that is done virtually. It's not done at the
when you
the
dial
center.
the short code.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the point that I'm making.
So if we could allow,
you are talking about the capturing of the data. Okay. And
When
as
you
far
go
as-
to the telco office,
yes.
okay, you still need to present to them, apart from your biometrics, the Ghana card, the physical
Yes.
Ghana card. So after doing the short code linking, when you go to the telco's office, you present to them the physical Ghana card, and then they take your biometrics. That's the linking I'm talking about. And I'm asking, is that necessary? DVLA has recently done an integration of its system with the NIA database. They didn't ask all drivers to show up at DVLA offices with their DVLA cards and Ghana cards to do the link.
the driver's license.
Yes, their driver's license and the Ghana cards. SNITS has just completed its harmonization of database and migration with NIA. They didn't ask all pensioners to line up at pension offices. MTN, Airtel Tigo, and Vodafone have signed MOUs for harmonization of databases with NIA. So the question I'm asking, why are Ghanaians being asked to show up at offices of telcos? And I hope you are mindful that Kenatefa has been asked this question about 4 months ago, and he said he cannot vouch for the integrity of the biometrics being captured because it has nothing to do with the NIA. The data that the biometrics
eventually they come out, they issued a statement.
Oh, they try to
explain
massage it.
What
when you go to a shop,
that.
when you go to a telco shop and they capture your biometrics, where is that data going? Who is capturing your biometrics? We are where we are because of policy incoherence and mismanagement of egos in government. It is the reality. And
Why
look,
that conclusion?
Let's call a spade a spade. When this process was going to begin, the NIA made it clear to the NCA and the ministry that they have an application and a platform that allows for you to link whatever database you have with the NIA's database digitally. So citizens would not have had, because MTN has my SIM card. My SIM card is registered. It's registered in my name. They have my passport details. So MTN would simply have run a query on the NIA database that this biometrics, because my passport has biometric details, this biometric details on the passport of Sam George, which was used to register this SIM card, is it the same biometrics that are sitting on the NIA database? If yes, I have no business showing up anywhere, and you link my SIM cards. In the cases of persons like former Miss something who has now become Miss Lai, Pope's wife, and her SIM was registered in her maiden name. Her Ghana card may have been done in her marital name. The system is going to flag that. So then she needs to then go to an office and show why her name has changed, and then they do that.
So those are the exceptional cases.
So you would have fewer cases showing up in the offices. But because of procurement, the problem of procurement in government, the NCA refused to use the NIA platform because the ministry wanted to procure its own biometric system from a private vendor. And so you have a system where today, the NIA, when they take your biometrics, it is taken offline. And then subsequently, that's how come some people even say they've gone to the MTN office, they've been told that they've gone through the whole biometric system. Then later when they go somewhere, they are told that the linkage did not happen. Because they are now doing reconciliation using a third-party platform. Your SIM card is not being linked directly, and the queries are not running directly on the NIA database. So you have this problem because first and foremost, policy incoherence. Because of the issues within the NPP in the first term of President Akufo-Addo's government, the NIA was moved away from the Ministry of Communications, where it used to be. Don't forget, the two LIs I read to you, one for SIM registration and one for NIA, were both passed by the Minister for Communications, Haruna Iddrisu, because they were under the Minister for Communications. You had this being moved from Ministry of Communications to Office of the Vice President, from Office of the Vice President to Ministry of Planning. From there now it is under Ministry of Interior. It is this policy incoherence and the fact that we are subjecting Ghanaians to this unnecessary issue of queuing up simply because someone chose to go and procure a system instead of using an automated system that exists at the NIA. So Kanatefa says, if you are not buying my system, my agency is not built to provide you emergency cards. So we'll work at our own pace. The ministry is saying they blame the NIA. When you ask the minister, and we have summoned the minister to parliament to ask her what the problem.
So
she says it is not my fault. It is the NIA's fault. She's blaming the NIA. The NIA too is saying it is not our fault. And I agree with the NIA. The NIA is a national security institution. They are not supposed to have 3,000 people sitting in their premises creating issues. And the last point I'll make, look, I am worried that the minister, by her actions, is defeating the purpose of a policy directive that we all agree with, a cleaner SIM card registry. Why do I say so? The law or the regulations she's brought out allow for one Ghana card to register 10 SIM cards. Maybe you are not aware, but I'll inform you that people have become Goro boys with SIM card registration now. Where if I have a Ghana card and I've registered my SIM card and you are unable because of the challenges, you simply come to me and then I will charge you something, use my Ghana card to register your SIM card for you. So you're in the long run, you are beginning to have SIMs that are registered, but the registration details are not those of the person holding the SIM. That is the problem we have with the current database we are trying to fix. But because of these bottlenecks, people are beginning to abuse it. And then the last one, the very last one.
So
the quick loan customers.
We will come to the impact on revenue, because apart from quick loan, there's the e-levy as well, which now we do know that because of the difficulties,
the e-levy has trailed.
Yes,
it has trailed. It's called 9%. It has trailed the course.
Now, so I'll come to you because you see, you are the deputy ranking member of the Communications Committee of Parliament, outlining all of these challenges. Point is that, what has the committee done over the period to, one, have the minister recognize these challenges you've outlined, and also what has been done up until this point? So that's the last question that I'll put to you. But Ms. Anda wanted to come in. And on the bit of revenue, George, we're getting in there, but take a look at this. Government on the 17th of November had a projection of 6.9 billion they were expected to rake in from the e-levy, right? And that was revised to 4.5 billion after the period of the approval of the e-levy took so long. Now, what you see on the screen is the revised e-levy revenue projections. E-levy is the last lap. Initially 6.9 billion, revised to 4.5 billion. Now, in the summary of government's operations, that document that was presented by the finance minister before Parliament on Monday, they have revised the e-levy revenue expectations from 6.9 billion to 611 million. That's actually less than 10% of expected revenue. And look, apart from the bank transfers and others that fall within the e-levy bracket, mobile money has also proven to be one of the major contributors to the e-levy, the money that even the Ghana Revenue Authority has been able to rake in now. So on the basis of what we probably call common sense, deactivating SIMs that are connected to mobile money that government is expecting revenue from the e-levy wouldn't serve government any good. Maybe on that basis, to consider a consideration as well, with an extension for this period. For those who have taken the quick loan, that also brings up a different challenge altogether for the telcos. And that's what Mr. Sam George was getting into. I'm saying that this is where I bring you in. It's going to also serve a disadvantage for the telcos especially, because this is a service that they put in place. But if these SIMs are deactivated, they lose revenue, especially those who have taken the loans. Not to talk about the data and the calls that people will make for them to also get a revenue. So all of these considerations, I'm sure the stakeholder engagement that you talk about, these things might have come up. And that goes to the point of the arbitrariness that Sam George talks about. You've been engaged in this process. How much of these considerations have been considered by the minister?
Okay, so I don't speak for the minister. I'm not currently at the ministry. But before I respond to that issue, I believe that we all heard Derek when he was recounting our position when we were both at the side of the operators, where at the time that Sam George's government, the NDC, were putting in place the guidelines for the first SIM registration exercise. In their engagements, we had insisted that the biometrics should be captured. And you heard what Derek's response was to that situation. So I find it a bit interesting that today Sam George is heavily criticizing a problem that they created themselves, and the MPP government under His Excellency President Nana-Addo and the Honorable Minister for Communications are fixing. So we are cleaning up the mess that they created. Let's put that aside. I don't think that throughout this discussion I have created the impression that stakeholders are not going to be inconvenienced if all unregistered SIMs are yanked off the system from tomorrow.
That's fair.
And I don't think that there's anybody that is suggesting that despite these genuine concerns, there should be a directive to yank off the systems, to yank off the SIMs from their systems. I mean, we've talked about the tripod of stakeholders that could be affected. Government would definitely be affected. I mean, once revenue generating SIM is yanked off and stops generating SIM, it affects the revenue of the operator. It affects the amount of taxes that the operator is going to pay. Once a SIM that is enabled to carry out mobile money activities yanked off the system, okay, there are genuine issues. It will affect the levy. It will affect the amount of electronic transactions that are taking place on that platform. It would affect probably an irrational withdrawal of mobile money from the account. I don't think that these are activities that all the stakeholders would ignore. I think that we should hold our guns. Right. You said at the beginning of the presentation, or the beginning of the program, that the Honorable Minister is going to speak to the press tomorrow.
Indeed.
Okay, and I am 99.9% certain that the Honorable Minister, in her wisdom, would come out with an announcement, an informed position, an informed announcement that will make everybody feel comfortable. So I would suggest that we hold our guns, okay, and let's wait for the Honorable Minister to make an announcement. And we are all aware that she's going to make the announcement. In fact, was it when was the last time we spoke? Was it on Friday? Yeah. Sam George and I spoke on Friday, and Sam was hoping that an announcement will come before Friday, and he in his own way said, if that announcement comes, I'll stop my fight. You understand? So I think that there will be an announcement that will make all stakeholders much more comfortable. But we also need to impress upon the agencies that have some dependencies on this whole process to address the bottlenecks. Right. I mean, there are genuine bottlenecks with NIA. Sam spoke about the possibility of maybe online capturing of the biometrics. It's possible. Okay, I mean, is the system robust enough, or was the system robust enough at that time? Maybe not. I mean, but with time, you improve your system. With time, you fix your bottlenecks. And I'm sure that the learnings that have been experienced over the period would now make it possible for people going forward, when the right platforms, the right systems are in place, to carry out the remote biodata capture, okay, and then the remote registration of the SIMs. I was a bit worried with the intel that Sam gave that Goro boys are registering for people. I think as citizens, we all need to be much more responsible, and Sam, thanks for bringing this thing out. I think that's very, very responsible on the part of any Ghanaian or any person that has access to a mobile phone to be pushed to the extent of getting somebody else to register their SIM for them. It doesn't help any purpose, because the next stage is going to be the validation of the data that has been brought up, and that's the reason why they are capturing your biometrics, they are capturing your digital address, they're capturing your Ghana card details, and once there are discrepancies in this, it will inconvenience you again.
Derek, I'll bring you in on this point, and that's going to be the last, and we'll round up with the quick loan bit that Sam George wanted to put out there. So there are very legitimate concerns that have been raised by both guests in studio as well. What should the ministry and the NCA be thinking about going forward, so as even if this is extended, the process will be a bit more convenient for people who have not gone through the process of linking their SIM card with their Ghana card details?
Thanks, Alfred, and it's been good listening to my two big brothers. You know, so I think for me, the whole thing about policy coherence, policy predictability, policy assurance, and more importantly, policy relaxation is important to cure some of the problems that are beginning to stem up. People have sent me messages, even on this call right now, showing some people that are basically saying that you can pay 50 cedis and they can be able to register your SIM card with a Ghana card for you. And that is going to happen because there's no clarity as at this stage. It's like we are forcing a big camel through the eye of a needle. And so once you create that kind of a bottleneck and people know that there is no possibility whatsoever to be able to get registered, they will look for dubious means. And definitely that is going to challenge the beauty of what we are all seeking to create. Look, Alfred, 2020 was a year in which mobile connectivity became more important to anybody than, look, like the pandemic demonstrated just how vital it is for everybody to have access to mobile services, from access to critical health information, digital platforms supporting individuals with remote learning, enabling people to receive social protection payments from their governments and all of those things. Connectivity is truly a lifeline at this time. So it's important for any government across the world. It is important at this point to be demonstrating and basically advocating for a lot of digital inclusion. So from where we sit, or from basically some of the commentary that we've had, we are concerned that even we have to wait till on Sunday afternoon before we can hear from the minister. But the challenges from today till tomorrow afternoon, within the next 24 hours, the kind of things that would happen, you cannot measure the impact of those challenges to where we are right now. And then I love the fact that you played the e-levy conversation. When we come to e-levy and the challenges with e-levy, I know one of the first people who started arguing e-levy was me. And we told government that, look, this was not something that was going to be feasible because you cannot tax money in motion. Money, it moves with a purpose. Once you cannot understand the purpose, you cannot just drop a blanket tax on the money that is moving, and you're going to have a challenge. It's interesting to know that from the $1 billion, technically $7 billion at the time when the conversation started, when the dollar was 7 to 1, the $7 billion has moved to 4.5, and today it is at 611. It's like now, after the 2.5 months of implementation, we've been able to understand the challenge of what we have created, because he had to implement it to now believe that what we said was not possible was now looking like what we said it was going to be like. And it's unfortunate that we are having to take 5 steps forward and 10 steps backwards. That's not the way to go forward, or that's not the way to drive our digital economy. That's not the way to drive the digitalization agenda that government has. It's important. Ghana in 2020, Ghana was cited as the fastest growing mobile money market in the world. We had everything working for us. Even Kenya was jealous of us. Kenya that started this whole journey. So we've had to now come back and derail some of those gains by seeking to think that we can be able to raise 1 billion when we could just have a conversation with the players. When it comes to e-levy, it's so unfortunate what we've done with it, because when you look at merchant payments, Guta says that they have 8 million merchants in Ghana. MTN alone has registered about 200,000 merchants who are driving merchant payments. So there's a huge gap that we could have basically looked at. Government could have worked with the service providers to try and grow that space. And in the merchant payment space, the charge was 0.25. Government, we could have done the 1% that applies across similar bands for different kinds of transactions on the merchant payments as well. And government could have, from my estimation, even just having 1 million merchants could have given government 2.5 billion cedis. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Unfortunately, I can understand. This is a government that is coming back on the back of a pandemic. Russia and Ukraine war is not doing too well for us. So government badly needs revenue. But unfortunately, we cannot get revenue where revenue does not exist. And if we have to create some, we need to create some with the meanings of every tax. Right. Every tax principle needs to be appreciated if we want to get the kind of revenue that we want as a government. But finally, just to say that government needs to quickly. I think that tomorrow is too late, and I wish that before the minister spoke, if there could be at least some sort of a release from the regulator. The NCA is the authority supposed to regulate the telecom space. It's unfortunate that the NCA has become more of a silent player, and everything has to come from the minister. The NCA needs to get on the ground, release information, provide guidance, let people get a bit of comfort. We don't have to wait to hear from the minister tomorrow afternoon before we know what is going to happen. That's the kind of sector that we do not want to see. There's an authority that needs to provide guidance before even the minister would speak. And I hope that we can be able to marry these two relationships properly so that people can be able to take some sort of comfort. You cannot sit in town or sit in queues the whole day today and expect to get registered, which obviously will not happen. What are people doing in the sun right now? We need to address that. Thank you.
Derek, I thank you so much for connecting with us this morning and for this contribution that you've made as well. Mr. Sam George, finally on this one, you were on the quick loan bit, and I dovetailed into the e-levy because it's all connected directly to this conversation that we are having and how that is going to impact on government revenue stream going forward. This is what we've seen with the revision of the e-levy, and about 9% expected revenue because of all the challenges that you raised even before the e-levy was approved. Mr. George.
Well, I think that Derek has largely made the case on the issue of revenue. For me, it's about the policy incoherence in everything that cuts and straddles various sectors, okay? Like I said, you have an e-levy that has trailed the course. 9%, it's scored 9%, and even that 9% is projected. There's still doubts that if you go ahead with cutting or deactivating SIM cards, you would even be able to make 10% of that amount or that you're looking for, because this 611 million is actually less than 9% of what the original expectation from e-levy was. And again, it's simply because the industry failed, or the policymakers failed to listen to industry. You understand me? Now, you have quick loan customers who have taken facilities, and people are holding back and not wanting to pay. They are saying, okay, if you want to deactivate my SIM, let's deactivate it. It's a disincentive for you to attract investors into the tech space. Because don't forget, these quick loans have formed the basis for a new cadre of small-scale businesses. People who take 500 cedis, 1,000 cedis, and turn it around and run businesses and pay these facilities back. People, in fact, the quick loan at times has put food on the table of families. You cannot underestimate the value of this. But right now, industry players are going to be scared. How do I put in money into an industry as an OTT on the back of the services when a policy directive one day could cost me a loss of billions or millions of dollars? These are the kinds of policy incoherence we need to talk about. The minister is quick to point out Ghana's growing international recognition for our digital inclusion.
Indeed.
Ghana has a digital internet penetration rate of 53%, one of the best on the African continent. How are people getting digital access? SIM cards. So if you take and if you deactivate this SIM card, you are rolling back the successes we've made. These are the same arguments we made when we were introducing e-levy with digital payments. We said to them there was policy incoherence. You can't be taxing a digital payment platform when your central bank is thinking of introducing a digital currency. Now you are talking about digital access. You are talking about digitization. Dr. Baumia is everywhere. Every speech he gives is about digitization and talking about digital progress. How do the citizens benefit from this so-called digital strides if the access to the digital world is taken away from them? And so, look, I've received messages here. Someone in Nkoko tells me of a 78-year-old woman who has to go 19 kilometers to the nearest telco office. When she gets there, the issue that we spoke about, and I can read that particular message specifically because it's telling. It tells you the challenges people are going through. Her name that she used to register, you know when we are registering our SIM cards and all of that, you know, we use different names. People just use. So she registered her Ghana card, her SIM card with Amadou Fie. Amadou Fie was the name she used to register. But for her Ghana card, it is Millicent Japan. Right. So because of the disparity in the names. However, if you were using the confirmation of the biometric systems, her biometrics will be the same irrespective of her name. And you won't have this challenge. These are the realities. Another person has gone to the MTN office. He gets there, and because of the H on the front of the Ghana card that has gone faint, he's been asked to go and get a reprint. He's going to join a queue. He has to get his appointment date for August, end of August. Like Derek said, it appears as though the minister is, and you see, I keep saying the minister, I say we shouldn't personalize it. Like Derek said, if the aid authority, the NCA, was speaking, we won't be mentioning the minister's name.
Thank you.
It appears as though the minister is relishing the suffering of Ghanaians. Why wait till Sunday if you are going to give an extension? Because, Maza, we've all agreed here, say Kasaye Mfama. The minister, what she said in Kumasi, that there will be no extension. It is not true. She will extend it.
Thank you. Prince Henry from Koforidia says, good morning, Alfred team. Your guest this morning says, have addressed the issues from a national perspective. This is a forward-moving, productive conversation, and I applaud the TV3 team for this. And indeed, this goes to them, to be honest. This one also here says, Nana Akufo-Addo and Dr. Baumia-led NPP government has made Ghana card look like a ticket to heaven. Why can't the NIA and Ministry of Communications extend the date to end of the year so we can say no to all the struggles Ghanaians are going through? And Musa Ababtua from Aswansi says the idea of establishing Ghana card is not bad, but implementation has become illusional, you say, simply because we lack critical, analysis of this. Good morning, Alfred and the honorable members in the House. Please, has the Minister Islawusu not caused panic and fear? Please take this up with the lawyers for me. Samson Abba. Good morning, Alfred, and your panelists. My question is that it means that if you are not a Ghanaian with the Ghana card, you cannot use a mobile phone in Ghana here because the SIM registration How can this be possible? Their target is not going to be achieved like the e-levy. You cannot use authoritative rule or power on your own, you say. This one here says, I think the SIM card registration should continue to at least next year to enable everyone without a hassle to go through it. This one here says, I applaud Mr. George Anda for his comments this morning. I hope and pray that the people of Ewutu Senya, this Ewutu Senya East, West, would consider, it says Ewutu Senya will consider him the next time. These are the brains that we need in Parliament. Well, he hasn't stated though whether he's going or not. I asked him, he says he lives in this is a constituency that he lives in. So this one here says that Sam George has been consistent about the detail that he put out there. But this morning, listening to him, he has put out much more detail that any listening government should take into consideration for God and country. Another one here says that your guest on Zoom has touched on very specific concerns that the minister failed to acknowledge even over the last almost 1 year that this conversation has been going on. This conversation on TV3 this morning is a national one, and the Minister of Communications must listen, you say. And thank you. The messages are quite a lot. And my guests, 2 of them will stay with me, but Mr. Derek Lai, who is the Director, Africa Digital Economy Forum, and I must say that we were all in Accra Academy together in the same house, in the same house. So Derek, thank you so much.
Thank you very much,
I appreciate you.
I'll leave.
Great.
Thanks.
Great.
Good day, guys.
I'll take your niche for you.
I'll meet you in town shortly.
So we'll be back shortly after this quick break here on Key Points. My 2 guests will stay with me, and I'll be joined by a political analyst as well as we look into the Dom Kwabenya situation with Sarah Joasafo. Parliament has deferred this decision, but the president has sacked her. What is the way forward looking like? Stay with me. We'll be back shortly.